Last week we discussed the trending issue with regards to cybersecurity that is ravaging almost everywhere, especially in the US. United States President Joe Biden described it as a war, a physical war. Now, it's a little bit creating some kind of tension, a feud between US and Russia. Now, the ransomware is almost everywhere, every nooks and crannies of the world. Now, today, there's no single, as little as it could be, organization that is not scared of this trend. Luckily, on the program last week, we brought a cybersecurity solution architect, speaking of Ibrahim Yusuf, who shed more light. He spoke extensively on the latest developments and how to stay on a safe side with regards to malware or ransomware or re-evil, as all the names are springing up from across cybersecurity. Now, today we want to talk about a technology that has come to stay in our world today. We often hear cloud or cloud computing. There's a lot about it, and it is nothing new anymore. But for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, or who have not really taken advantage of this technology, it is a means of storing files or information and accessing them via internet storage, internet storage, instead of using your computer. Now, you will know, there are many examples of them, like, Google Cloud, and you just name them. You will agree with me that in the trend of the cybersecurity problem in the world today, all this storage, can be affected. Now, what to do in this very critical situation is what we get to hear from Ibrahim Yusuf today on Money and Technology. My name is Ajara Ahmed Tijani. Cloud is what we are looking at, and how to stay safe. Hello, Yusuf Ibrahim. It's good to have you again on today's edition of the program, Money and Technology. Now, cloud, we get to hear a lot about cloud. What is cloud, and why is it significant to money and technology?
Yeah, what is cloud? That's a question that a lot of people obviously either misunderstand or they think they understand, but they probably don't. So is a cloud, it's very simple. It's someone else's server. It's a machine out there that doesn't belong to you, that you put something on, that you work on, that you upload something, that you download something from. So that's essentially what cloud is. Now, of course, that's the layman's terms answer. And cloud is where the world is going. It's what makes things a lot simpler nowadays. And a lot of us, for example, if I give you some examples, in the old days, of course, the companies were using everything on their data center or server room, but nowadays big organizations have come about to facilitate companies to set up business without really doing an investment on buying hardware and data centers and things like that. Companies such as Amazon, AWS, Google, basically cloud, Microsoft, they have a cloud that is called Azure. So those are the ones that are giving organizations a way to conduct business without you needing infrastructure on a brick and mortar. But essentially, cloud is not, it's not completely surreal. These are servers that belongs to someone, to organizations out there. So, and normally when it comes to security, is cloud more secure than of course on-prem? We'll probably answer that question, but effectively, whatever you have on-prem follows you in the cloud as well. So yeah, bear in mind, cloud is your responsibility.
All right, thank you so very much, Yusuf Ibrahim, for that explanation. It's quite in-depth. Now, most organizations, serious organizations, around the world today are making use of cloud. A lot of information, classified information or grade A information are stored in this storage. How do you think this, ransomware that is everywhere will not get to some of this storage?
Yeah, so there is definitely a migration of some sort. So the world now is used to be obviously on-prem, as I said, related to the previous question. And on-premise means all your machines and your infrastructure are within your hand, and they are sitting either a server room if you are a sort of small organization, or a data center if you are a large organization, because that's a whole infrastructure that you spend money on and upkeeping. So and of course, you pay electricity, you pay lifeguards, you pay security, you pay the rental, you pay the cooling of those machines, because they can get easily hot. And organizations obviously have been testing the water in the last, I would say, even 10 years now. That cloud is a lot more agile, it's a lot more simple. You don't need an upfront payment. You can really rent machines out there so that you can conduct business on a on-demand fashion. So if you don't need that amount of processing power today and machinery, you don't need to invest that. You can use it at a later time. So you basically use it as a pay-as-you-go, right? So that's essentially what the organizations are attracted to, but it's not for everyone, the cloud. And cloud has associated risk, associated privacy issue, and that has really split the market into those who wants to be in the cloud and has moved on to the cloud, and those who wants to remain on-premise and not really conduct their business in the cloud. But also there are third category where businesses are somewhat in the cloud, but also not in the cloud. So they are halfway there, and that's called hybrid business conduct. So they take advantage of what really makes them successful when it comes to the cloud, but also they remain on premise in the brick and mortar of their server room and their data centers when it comes to privacy and data sovereignty. So yes, there is a migration that we are seeing accelerating, but there is still a split in between on businesses for those who wants to go out there and those who wants to conduct business. And maybe the question that you want to ask is there a sort of a difference between what you get in the cloud and on what you get on premise? Not so much really, because the world has grown up on a on-premise conducting way of business. So therefore, the first thing you would have is you would have a replacement first, so that everything that you were doing on premise is provided you in the cloud. Of course, the cloud has more than the on-premise, but everything that you would have on-premise solutions, you will be able to actually have it in the cloud. It's in a much more agile, in a much more easier and nimble way. And this is essentially what is changing the world. The speed on conducting business and transacting is really alleviated by the cloud. I mean, take an example of when you want to drive from A to B and you have Google Map on your smartphone. If you have a data, it's much easier just to load up Google Map and then pinpoint where you wanted to go. And if there is an address that you can actually type in that address, and that Google satellite will guide you using your mobile data to drive you where you wanted to be with a guidance. All of this is driven by cloud connectivity, right? Because your smartphone, whether you're using Android based or whether you're using iOS, Apple hardware is driven by cloud connectivity, regarding update and services and utilization, but also from data usage point of view. Everything has been put on your fingertip. So this is what really the cloud has brought, and this is what has changed the cloud. There are tons of examples, right? So all of these electric cars, for example, that are driving themselves, autonomous vehicles, they rely on heavy load of data access and ingesting a lot of threat intelligence based on where they are going and the location they are going and the speed and everything. The same way that we used to use a satellite in the old days. Imagine that. This is what we actually use in cloud on data centers, such as the big organization Google and AWS and Amazon. So that's essentially really what has changed the world and brought accelerated means of conducting business, since we need machines. And the really good benefit is, which I already said a couple of times, is the on-demand use, right? So on beginning a business or conducting or maybe expanding a business, you need to have a big capital expenditure that you need to put up front. So your OPEX is quite heavy at the beginning, and later on maybe the operation of the OPEX, it will be less. But when it comes to cloud, you actually start with minimal if you want to, and then grow as you actually see fit, rather than investing a lot upfront and then realizing maybe you overshot the investment. So that's another aspect that the cloud is absolutely giving you an access. And of course, the world is not created equal, because in the developed world this is the case, but in the developing world, the data centers and the growth of cloud connectivity is still maturing. But the good thing is, especially in Africa and the East Africa, the data consumption is quite low in comparison to the UK, for example, where I came from. So that's actually a kudos to those infrastructure that are being invested heavily in those regions. And hopefully, things will actually get there and probably will get far better than the developed world, because of the low consumption and the rate at which the consumers are using data. So cloud is here to stay, and I think the world will actually eventually move to cloud. But this has changed the world like we have never seen before.
Okay, finally, how do you think organizations, big or small, organizations generally should stay safe from this ransomware?
Senior management, and we know, probably in a lot of cultures, senior management almost are seen, above the security controls, which is normally a weak link, because if a senior management account is infiltrated and broken into, then that is devastating. It's more critical than a normal employee's, for example, email account, or a normal employee's laptop. Is a senior management. There's a lot of juicy information on that machine or part of that email account. Now, that's why the senior management has to be the first to mandate to absolutely have top-notch security awareness, so that they can then filter down the education and awareness top-down, not bottom-up, right? So there's no point of really educating the typical layman's users if the senior management and middle management are not really doing their job properly. And what I mean by job is not being security aware, may be causing security issues. And when it comes to security, there is no one is above the law, essentially, within the organization, because a security is a security. So if there's a break-in on a breach, it will then devastate the whole organization and then end up with all sorts of trouble. So these security awareness and training program allow to train employees by sending courses where you teach them a typical topic. It's multi-language sometimes, and not just English, so people can read their native language, can understand what the issue is. There are scenarios that they normally play, and high quality videos that educating the typical user on what to do on a attack of this type, what to look for on a phishing attack, what is a social engineering, what are the telltale signs of an attack if you actually see it, and the user really become then part of the protection of the organization, and that's really good. So that's one thing they do. The other thing they do is they they then quiz the person, right? So there's no point of obviously just watching a 5, 10 minute, 15-minute video if there is no enticement where you need now to demonstrate that you understood everything that you have watched. So they do a sort of a quiz to make it fun and gamify, to make it like a game, so that people are coming back to this learning portal. And then they also take one step further where they do a simulation of attack, not real attack, but simulated, such as phishing attack, so that the education then goes to a step where employees will be able to see what a real attack looks like without it being real. So security and awareness and training is fundamental, and that is really the aspect of the human side of security. So I will reiterate what I've been explaining in the last probably 8-10 minutes is the people, process, and technology. That's what makes security. If one of those are missing, so you have the process and technology, but the education is lacking on the employees, they will keep making mistakes. They will keep infecting the organization. If you have the employees trained, but you don't have the effective technology to then safeguard those employees, then the technology is what is actually letting you down. If you are missing the process, but you have technology and the people side of it, but you don't have a process to put in place and you have no backup, and there is an attack such as a ransomware and your machines are locked, then do you have a backup? Because that's the process. And if that is what you're lacking, then you actually let yourself down from a process point of view. So you can actually see where I'm actually getting at. So that's essentially what I would tell the organizations. There are tons of things that we can definitely touch here, but for the benefit of time, I will point it down to those few points.
All right, thank you so very much. We really appreciate you, Yusuf Ibrahim. We will definitely press it further on the same subject matter sometimes in the future. And I'm sure if we call you next time, you will oblige our call. Thank you very much. All right, viewer, it's been a few minutes with Yusuf Ibrahim, a cybersecurity solution architect, and we've been discussing cloud and how to stay clear of the trending, the Hydra-headed monster of the ransomware or re-evil, as the name might be. And what should organization do in this trend? All right, Money and Technology is the program. My name is Ajara Ahmed Tijani. Until next week, we'll come your way. Remain blessed and enjoy digital life. Bye for now.